More crazy, unhinged pro-Palestine protesters on the streets of the West. Let's take a look. I'm Tall, your favorite Zionist prince, the traveling clat. Let's check it out.
What brings you here to the protest?
I've just come here to show solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Of course you have,
They're
honey.
having such a terrible time in Gaza.
Absolutely.
And they're being slaughtered, and their children are being slaughtered, and their homes are being destroyed.
By the way, subscribe to the YouTube channel right now if you want to help us get to 500,000 subs. We're well on the way. Let's make it happen.
And things could be different. That part of the world could be living in peace and democracy, and instead we're having this bloody great war. And I came here to show solidarity, and now I find that the police around here are starting trouble by arresting young people with placards.
What are they arresting them for?
They've arrested one young person, they've arrested in there, and he's been there since I got here, which is about nearly an hour, and they won't let him go. And he's got something written on his placard.
With the fucking placards?
Okay, it says, Zionism is like Nazism. Something like that. That's a second-hand comment. I didn't see it. Somebody told me that's what he'd written.
And you mentioned you think that...
You don't arrest people for that. You don't arrest people for that. You might argue with them. You might say, are you sure that's true? He's a young person. He's maybe made a mistake. But honestly, this is not good policing. I've seen good policing on all the other demonstrations I've been on to support Palestine. I've seen good policing. This is terrible.
This is bad policing.
They've stirred up a riot. Maybe that's what they wanted.
You said that part of the world would be living in peace and democracy. Could
Yes.
be. What would need
Yes.
to happen for that to happen?
If we didn't have a racist state in Israel, if Israel was run as a totally equal democracy, and all Palestinians and all the people in that part of the world could live under an equal rights government, then we wouldn't have this situation.
The longer it goes on,
I'm going to trust beans on toast, lady, for my fucking Middle Eastern politics. Absolutely.
the more important I think it is for people to show support, because numbers drop off. The way that it's being handled by people in power does need challenging. And clearly there's a
Like,
lot
who do you mean when you say people in power?
I mean the governments, and I mean
Of which
like,
country? This country?
This country, like it's too hard to sum up briefly. Like,
And what would you like to see happen now?
change? Like, first of all, the ceasefire. That's primarily save lives, and then a two-state solution, I guess, probably.
Two-state solution.
Probably.
Yeah.
I came here today because I'm concerned about the terrorism of the Israeli state
Okay.
in invading Gaza, and 198 people have been killed since the ceasefire has ended. Innocent, unarmed Palestinians.
All of them.
And more or less to call for a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire.
All of them are innocent, unarmed, innocent civilian women, journalists, trans baby journalists, feminists in Gaza, by the way. All of them.
What do you say to people who say there was a ceasefire before October 7th and this is why there's the fighting now?
Yeah, well, sometimes ceasefires break down. I was involved myself when the first Irish ceasefire broke down in January 1975. I was involved myself in talks between the IRA and the British government in order to get the ceasefire resumed.
Oh, wow.
I'm chairman of the Irish Civil Rights Association. I had stood for Parliament here in October 1974. I led 7 candidates for the Irish Civil Rights Association. And because I had taken part in the democratic process, I was able to make a phone call to the IRA and to the British government, and I just simply asked them, would a representative of each of them meet with a view to getting the ceasefire resumed?
I want a ceasefire, and I want the lifting of the siege now. There are many, many thousands of people living in very, very small area. They have got no army, they have got no navy, they have got no air force. Now they have hardly any health care at all because it's been bombed to smithereens. And they are like fish in a fish bowl being shot at.
And how do you think we get peace now?
We get peace by the United Nations, which is the only organization that is worldwide, pulling together all the Arab nations around there who are, excuse my language, halfway up the US arse, to come out of that, to have the sort of sympathy that I have got for the human life that is being destroyed, in front of our eyes.
Before the attack on October 7th on Israel,
Yes.
in which 1,200
Yeah.
civilians were killed, people would argue that was a ceasefire that was broken by Hamas. What would you say to those people?
Well, I would say to those people that Gaza was still under siege. It was still, the people of Gaza were completely controlled by the Israeli government, as we've seen, because as soon as it happened, the water was cut off, food was cut off, everything was cut off. They were only allowed, at that time, so many calories a day, controlled by the Israelis.
Sure, quickly, who are you from first?
We're an independent YouTube channel. We go to protests and film documentaries about it.
Independence, okay.
Yeah, okay. I take you're suspicious of mainstream TV or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how come?
I call it right-wing TV, man.
right-wing TV?
Nah, they'll cut and edit any and everything you say and just like try to paint a bad picture of you.
Okay.
And if you keep everything clean, then they just won't air it anyway, so.
Which channels are you talking about?
Let's say on Freeview, all of them except for Al Jazeera. And above Al Jazeera, GB News and Talk TV, they're
Yeah, Al Jazeera's the one, right?
more right-wing than say like the BBC and the Zionist Sky News, for example.
You think Sky News is right-wing and Zionist and BBC
Oh,
as well?
definitely. A 14-year-old had a sign that they didn't quite like. The sign said, ceasefire now, children are not collateral damage, and then a very small writing had said, stop Zio-Nazism. But because the word Zio-Nazi was in there, they didn't like the sign, so they grabbed the 14-year-old. We had a bit of a standoff, and this gentleman and I helped calm things down on our respective sides.
And what would you like to see happen now with the conflict?
Then just stop the airstrikes on civilians, stop targeting civilian homes, water storage, solar panels, UN schools where civilians are taking shelter. Stop with the airstrikes on civilians. If they really want a war, fight it out in the streets of Gaza City where they're being hunted by Al-Qassam brigades who are destroying hundreds of their tanks and killing thousands of their troops. Fight a real war on the ground, which they can't win.
If you were in charge of Israel on October 8th, what would you do?
Well, you have to do a little investigation. You know what I mean? You can't just automatically look to bomb Gaza into oblivion.
Of course.
You got a hostage crisis. Guess what? You might kill some of your hostages, which is exactly what they've done. They've killed scores of them.
Do you see October 7th as them breaking out against the occupation?
Yeah. Resistance. Been a long time coming. Retaliation to many previous massacres in the Gaza Strip. They hit every single military base around Gaza within 6 minutes.
This is not self-defense. You know, this is not war. I think they want to kill them all. It's a genocide. It's an extermination of the whole people of Gaza.
And why do you say they want to kill them all?
I think the evidence is there. I think they've already flattened about 60% of the buildings. I think the numbers are about 15,000 now. I'm certain that's a conservative estimate, but the majority of the hospitals have been destroyed. They're not functioning. They're attacking schools. I don't see how Gazans can survive unless there's an immediate ceasefire. If I'm a victim of any kind of assault, that doesn't exempt me from the moral order. Now, the Israelis, as I understand it, they regard the IDF as the most moral army in the world. I mean, that's a sick joke now, because they seem to think that the fact that they were victims of this assault, it exempts them from the moral order. Well, that's not the case. So whatever response you make, you have to do so within, I'm a Catholic, there's a just war theory, which is about using legitimate force and not harming civilians and so on. That applies to everybody.
You feel that they're not respecting that?
Certainly not.
I'm a trauma national expert in the UK, and I think one thing that is important is that actually trauma, the mechanism of trauma in the brain, silence people, silence the voice of people. Genocide is what is happening, and in some ways, I think the Western countries are silencing us, not just the trauma that we are observing and absorbing, but also the governments are doing that. As a doctor, as a physician, it's very hard actually to be in the position of feeling you need to help people when they come to your unit and they traumatize, but at the same time, what are we doing with this kind of colluding in our governments to a major crime that is traumatizing further human beings?
Talking to a lot of people about October 7th as well, I'm guessing the way Israel is responding seems to be a response to the trauma that they suffered as well.
You know, I'm a bit cynical about that. Every human being is being traumatized one way or another. And I don't think you can excuse your behavior on trauma that you've been suffering, inflicting it to others.
What the hell? What the hell? What do you mean? You just said the opposite. You just said everyone's traumatized. Ah, wait, Jews got traumatized. Not allowed. What a bunch of baloney. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you a long time. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Help us get to... If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat, or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.